After that passionate, right, it came from the heart of our speech from our, first of all, I would say, Chancellor of the University of Trinidad and Tobago and President of Trinidad and Tobago, right, and from the other speakers. I think there's nothing left for me to say in bringing the closing remarks other than to thank all the speakers this morning and those who will be participating in the two-day symposium, all our sponsors. Without you, this will not have been a reality, right? The staff and students of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and especially of the Maritime Campus here, we really want to commend you, and of course, the press, and ladies and gentlemen. However, you know, as I was driving down this morning, I said, what would I say? Almost I was taking up Dr. Francis' approach. What should I say in bringing closing remarks? Should I talk about ocean governance? And I can speak for hours on that. Should I talk about climate change? And I could do the same thing. And I said to myself, something just keep beating in my head like the steel pan, right? What should I say to such an august audience in closing remarks? And something just, a spark just lit. Are we, as the National University of Trinidad and Tobago, fulfilling our mandate? That came to my mind. Are we, as a national university, fulfilling our mandate? And then I reflected for a minute, what is happening this week? 4 days this week. For the last 2 days, we are talking about, of course, we are focusing on the maritime sector and mitigating against climate change. And we all know the impact of climate change on especially on small island developing states. And again, I don't like that terminology. I said it 2 days ago. We are large water developing states. And we have to maximize the potential of this large water resource. It's the largest natural resource we have. So I reflected on those 2 last days. And these are not only, all as a national university, these are not confined to national problems. It's not regional, but it's international. And that's one of the mandates of the university, always a national university, to work with all stakeholders, locally, regionally, internationally, to solve problems. And then for today and tomorrow, we are looking at enhancing ocean governance. Another very important, they're interrelated. Again, one of the mandates. But let me just put it in a nutshell. Our mission as a national university is to foster entrepreneurship. And we have entrepreneurship sort of permeating all our programs. The intention being to produce entrepreneurs, right? And to create wealth for the benefit of all our people. So diversification of the economy is important. And as a rider to that, there are 3 main sub-themes for the mandate. And that is through our teaching and training, relevant teaching and training, to produce graduates who can go now and satisfy the demands both in terms of numbers and skill sets of the present and future needs of our stakeholders. Very, very important. We are supposed to be producing people who can fill the needs, present and future needs. Notice I said present and future needs. And in a globalized economy, we can not only think of Trinidad and Tobago. We are now global citizens, so we have to be producing global citizens. And this is what we are doing. And I'll give you an example in a minute, because I thought this is the moment to bring to the attention of this august audience here. Some people say the best kept secret about UTT. What UTT is doing is just a name, but are they recognizing what UTT is all about? And I think it's important in a forum like this to bring this so that you could go and carry on that conversations in every nook and cranny, not only of Trinidad and Tobago, but of the region and internationally. So we are going to produce the graduates that are required by our stakeholders. Secondly, through our research, development, and innovation, find solutions to the problems that confront us. And these problems may be local, they may be regional, or international. And what we are witnessing over the last, well, for the 4 days, are finding solutions to what? Not only regional, but not only national, but regional and international, and bringing the stakeholders together. Colleagues, we can only have, as I said many times before, a strong Trinidad and Tobago. We can only have a strong Caribbean, and we can only find solutions when people come, when the various stakeholders come together. And what we are seeing here this morning is what UTT is doing, bringing the relevant stakeholders together to find solutions to problems. We cannot do it by ourselves. The private sector cannot, I said, cannot do it by themselves, nor the public sector. We have to come collectively, and that's often referred to as the triple helix approach to solving problems. And sometimes I say to myself, is that a difficult concept? Why are we finding it difficult to come together to find solutions for the common good of humanity? And that's exactly what we are doing. So I began to look at this. UTT is in fact fulfilling its mandate. And you may not know, through international assistance from the EU I mentioned before, and UTT as an entrepreneurial university is the first university in the Caribbean to have established a sound recording studio for students being trained in that program. And we are bringing in the private sector also to make use of that facility. So we have the first, we are soon to establish a fashion studio. So all the elements of that, of the program itself, leading to commercialization. No other university has that sort of thing. So I want you to go and tell the good news today about this. In fact, my son called me early this morning and told me he saw one of the most fantastic fashion display on television coming from our UTT students. Every student in the final year project must display their designs. And many of our board members were present, and you may have seen it on television. That is what is coming out of you. So are we fulfilling our mandates? It's for you to determine that, right? Then, of course, we have many other things that we're doing. We have the only incubator situated in a university in the Caribbean. And right now we have 60+ incubators, as we call them. They have formed their own business, and they're getting the necessary skill sets, training, so that their business could be successful. And a number of companies are, in fact, operating in that. So this is what UTT is all about. And this, what we are seeing here today, is evidence of that sort of thing. Right. So, as I mentioned before, if we are going to achieve this laudable mandate, and we have to give credit to our founding father, Professor Julian, is the one who really came up with that vision for UTT, where he said, we are no longer going to look at, creating wealth from our natural resource, oil and gas, but we must now create wealth from knowledge, using knowledge fueled by the power of the human imagination, creativity, and innovation to create wealth. So, colleagues, the new natural resource of the world today is what? Knowledge. From the concrete to the abstract, back to the concrete, creating new products. That is what UTT is all about. As we heard before, that the oceans is the most valuable natural resource. 3/4 of the Earth's surface, of course, is covered by water, and it's a home for 90% of habitat. It has more natural resources than our land. It's a rich source of our biodiversity. It's the greatest sink for carbon dioxide, and we are talking about mitigation of climate change. So it's a sink. It's also the source of oxygen. It regulates our Earth's atmosphere. Last night I just saw some data, 200 billion pounds of fish and fish shell are caught every year. Could you imagine if we destroy that environment, what will happen to people? Of course, it's a major form of recreation, transportation. Over 90% of the material transported across the world, they are transported by ocean vessels. It's not the aircraft. You talk to the people on the street and they talk about traveling by the ships. They don't know that. It's all by aircraft, but they don't realize the importance of the shipping industry, and so on. And it's also an increasingly important source of biomedical organisms with enormous potential for treatment of diseases. Very important. And these are just a few examples of the importance of the ocean to life on land. And UTT recognizes the critical importance of the ocean to the survival of humankind. Right? And it also should be noted that, and Justice Lucky should, well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this, that 64% of the oceans are beyond national jurisdiction. And that is a challenge we have, and I hope that this will be addressed. And as our Chancellor said, and President of the country, it's time for a new perspective, right, on the blue growth and the blue economy. We all are the stakeholders. Although as a national university, we recognize that if we are going to find solutions to the blue perspective, that there are 7.5 billion stakeholders who have a share in that stock. So each one of us have a share in that stock. And the only way we can achieve this is by the effective global network on enhanced ocean governance. We need to explore them in greater detail to understand why we must keep the ocean healthy for future generations. Colleagues, in closing, again, I want to thank all the speakers, all the invited speakers, both locally, regionally, and internationally. We look forward to 2 days of crucial conversations, and we sincerely hope that these conversations will not end tomorrow evening. Otherwise, this whole exercise will be a complete waste of time. The importance of this and the value of this will be what happens after. And we hope that these crucial conversations will continue everywhere you go from now onwards until we come to suitable solutions. Right? We hope that you would stay, all of you would stay for the next 2 days and engage in the discussions. It is our oceans, our future, and our collective responsibility. Thank you very much.